LEGO has now been producing Ninjago sets for well over a decade, and during that time, we have received 3 sublines alongside the standard releases. Ninjago Core is the most recent of the bunch, and I personally feel like it has yielded the worst result of the lot. Now don't get me wrong, I love 99% of the sets that we do get every year, but objectively speaking, I do feel like Core suffers from the most issues. But I want to stress that I actually do like Core overall, and I do think it gave us some of the best sets in recent years. But I feel like it did also give us a lot of sets that just aren't as good as the others. Legacy began in 2019 and was advertised as a faithful reimagining to many of the classic Ninjago sets from Season 1 to Season 5. But the thing is that even though most of these sets are classed as a reimagination or a modernization of the original sets, most of them come out just as, if not more accurate than their original releases. Unfortunately though, LEGO did put an end to Legacy towards the end of 2021, and a lot of the fans were left wishing that we did get more from the line. But not long after the end came along, we got Core. And Core began in 2022, and was advertised as the replacement to Legacy. LEGO wanted to produce more sets that were based off of the older sets from the show, but they also wanted to redesign them to bring kids into Ninjago without the trouble of knowing where they all came from. The problem that came with that though, is that they took many great sets and completely butchered them. But Core has come to an end as of the end of 2023, and as of the time of this video, it has not been replaced by a new subline. But while those sets were out, we did get 2 full waves. But speaking of the sets, what confuses me most about Core is that, in my opinion, about 90% of the sets either are bad or just mediocre, and then we have about 5% of the sets that are actually good. But then you got the last 5%, which is debatably some of the best Ninjago sets we've ever had. I will say one of the reasons why I feel like a lot of the sets are just mediocre is because a lot of them just feel a bit strange to me. Like, does Jay necessarily need a race car? No. And in my opinion, it doesn't really suit him. But it doesn't exactly make the set bad, I just don't understand why it exists. A lot of the smaller sets also did release with a gimmick that was aimed at the younger audience, which is the evolution features. This basically meant that every single set that did support this feature, you would see the main build and the main ninja of that set have 2 or 3 stages where they power up. And I personally do think that most of the sets that supported this feature did allow the quality of the set overall to fall a little bit, as the bigger sets that didn't support this feature simply were better. But this doesn't mean that none of the evolution sets were bad. Personally, I do really enjoy Lloyd's Golden Mech and Cole's Dragon. But even then, I think both of them do just fall short to previous iterations of these ideas. I do understand that the evolution gimmick is not targeted towards the adult fans of Ninjago, but the point I want to bring is that the older fans do look at these sets with the interest of buying them and sometimes decide to spend their money elsewhere. Making it stranger though, some of the evolution ideas are actually really unique and I kinda like them, but some of them just do not translate well to their sets. The best example of that for me is definitely that mech bike build that we got for Kai. And I never would have thought of an idea like this, but I love how fascinating the concept is. But the set itself, I just don't like. The set definitely suffered most from the budget, considering that it was a £40 set with 300 pieces. And I do think it could have been a great set if the idea was put behind a £60 plus set, but unfortunately we can't get a win all the time. But like I said, we go from sets like this to sets like this. Jay's mech, the combo mech, and the Dojo Temple definitely stands as some of the best sets that we have had in recent time. I genuinely have no complaints with any of these sets, and I honestly question how Core managed to produce sets like this in comparison to some of the others. These are the sets that truly feels like the successor to Legacy, and it does fulfill the redesign and the reimagining of older sets. I just wish we got more of it during Core. But I don't want to be all negative towards the smaller evolution sets, because they did introduce us to some of the pieces that have become standard, mainly the cockpit piece, so a lot of them do get a pass in my book. But when we look at the other end of the spectrum with Legacy, we see how Legacy produced so many fantastic sets. There are very few Legacy sets that I would call bad, and mainly those ones fall down to the 4+ sets. The only other sets that I would consider anything below good are those Ninja Battle Packs that we got, but those are mainly down to the fact that the suits aren't canon. I can genuinely say that the entirety of Legacy's run did provide us with sets that were great in many ways, and that's what I wish Core was. Some of the sets from Legacy are now considered some of the most sought after sets in recent time. The Monastery alone is loved by many and highly recommended by anyone who asks. Each set definitely took their original counterparts and improved it in many ways. I truly believe these sets improved over their originals, even beating out the nostalgia bias that a lot of people can have. But one of the main differences between Legacy and Core sets is that Legacy did focus on the details and the quality of the sets throughout all of the price ranges, whereas with some of the smaller Core sets, it does feel like they fell short. You can truly see the attention that they gave with all of the Legacy sets, whether you're looking at the wings of Lloyd's Golden Dragon or the walls of the Monastery. You can see that each brick that they put out definitely had a lot of love and thought put into them. I truly do wish that Legacy never ended when it did, and we could have gotten another wave or two of them, but I'm glad that we did get what we had. But I do want to make it clear though, that the Legacy line isn't perfect, and it does have some issues that I will explain during the next section, which is... Core has a very tight but solid lineup of minifigures. On a technicality, all of the ninja do have multiple variations throughout the line of Core, but all of these versions come down to whether they have their hair or the hood, and if they have their shoulder armor. But if you do take each of the ninja in their completed form, which includes the shoulder armor and the hood, these are fantastic minifigures. These suits were actually used during the Journey to Mastery online game that was released in 2021. When these designs were lifted from the game and added to the sets, it was actually intended to not be canon to the show. However, we do get to see the designs used in Dragon's Rising Season 1. But the suits overall though are definitely fantastic. They're simple but they're unique, and each ninja stands out in their own way. The Wu from Core is also a very good minifigure. But funnily enough, it's actually a reuse of Legacy's Wave 2 Wu, but it has his movie head print instead of his Wildbrain era head print. But it is a shame, because we never got an original Wu from Core technically, but Wave 2's Wu is actually lifted from the same game as the Core Ninja. Other allies we got during Core include Pixel, and if you want to hear my full opinion on Core Pixel, I do talk about it in this video here. There's also the Pixel Bots, which are a fun addition to the set, but they aren't exactly life-changing. And then we do get 2 apprentice minifigures, one male and one female, which are cool to see, but they were definitely kept in the realm of non-canon. Core also did receive 2 factions of enemies as well, one of them being the Bone Warriors and one of them being the Boa Destructors, and they are reimagined versions of the Skullkin and the Serpentine. The Boa Destructors are a hybrid of the Constricti and the Pyro Vipers, and while there's nothing necessarily wrong with them, they do come across as a bit generic and they aren't canon to the show. The Bone Warriors though are a very fun modernized version of the Skullkin, and they are officially canon to the show, as they do make an appearance during Dragon's Rising Season 1. But overall, Core definitely does have a solid line of minifigures, but again, if we do compare it to Legacy, you can notice how Legacy just gave us a lot more. The ninja all received a Wave 1, a Wave 2, and a 10th anniversary variant during Legacy. All of these versions are inspired from previous suits in the show's history, while they are also trying to be their own thing. Where I will say that Core does better than Legacy in this regard, is that Legacy didn't actually finish the Wave 2 of sets before discontinuing. Nia and Zane didn't get a tournament outfit, and the whole team but Zane never got the Deepstone suit. But regardless of that, the ninja do definitely have some fantastic suits in Legacy. Are they better than the Core suits though? Well, that's down to you to decide, but I personally would take Legacy over Core. Legacy definitely does also offer a very large variety of side characters. The sets included many versions of side characters from the show's past and present, from the Elemental Masters to just the citizens of Ninjago City. This definitely does feel like an area that Core doesn't try to fill though, as they focused more on giving us variants of our main cast instead of expanding the variety of the sets. The Legacy villains are also reimagined, but they're mostly modernized versions of older enemies. The Skullkin, Serpentine, Stone Warriors, Nindroids, Anachondrite Cultists, and Ghosts are all great updates to the classic designs. They were definitely fantastic ways to obtain the older enemies of the show, and that is why it is kind of tough to compare this to Core, as Core intended to do the exact opposite. But overall, Core definitely does have a solid line of minifigures to offer, but it does feel more scarce in comparison to Legacy. But it does feel like Core doesn't try to compete with Legacy's selection, even though it truly could have expanded on it by a lot. Knowing that Core has officially ended and we have no indication on any subline to come as of the time of this video, the potential of what can come next could be fantastic. Personally, if we do get a new subline, I would love to see a hybrid of what we got from Core and Legacy, taking what makes both of these lines fantastic and making it into one. But do I think Core could return? Yeah. And a part of me does kinda hope it does. If it did, my main hope for it would definitely be that we get more of the larger sets that we got during Core, and there wasn't as much of a focus on the evolution gimmick. Would I want Legacy to return instead? Not necessarily as a replacement to Core, but yes. There were definitely many more sets that we could have gotten from Legacy's runtime, and we could have seen more of the Season 1 through 5 sets, but we also could have seen sets and minifigures from Season 6 and Season 7. But I definitely hope we do get a new subline to continue the pace that Legacy and Core is set, and hopefully it does become the best of the bunch. But overall though, do I think that Core failed? No. I do think that the line as a whole was very good. We definitely got a lot of cool minifigures and a bunch of fantastic sets as a result of it. But I do wish they learned more from Legacy and leaned less into the gimmicky aspects and committed to more of the standard sets that are still loved to this day. Do I recommend going back to Core now and grabbing some of the sets? 100% for some of them. Some of the larger sets are fantastic, and some of the smaller ones do look great on display, and you can also get some of the great minifigures that come along with them. I would just steer clear of more of the gimmicky sets, and some of the ones that just don't look as good to you. I do think that a lot of people can agree that Core replacing Legacy and taking over from Legacy was very unfortunate, as Legacy was great in a lot of ways, and we could have seen so much more potential from that line. But hopefully one day, we can get a new subline from Ninjago that merges the best of both worlds, and I can't wait to see it. Okay, bye!